Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm program chair this month, and the first of my programs is one that I'm excited to hear because he has spoken to the club before, but I missed it, so I'll be anxious to hear what he has to say today. I'd like to introduce John Smith. John is professionally, his day job is marketing manager for the Oscar Winsky Company, but he's a busy guy. He's a husband, father of three. One of his sons plays on this team. You might mention that. But he's also the coach of the Lafayette Dunkers, which is an AAU, or Amateur Athletic Union, basketball team. And he's going to tell us a little bit about his team. John?
First of all, I just want to say thank you all for allowing me to come in and talk about my team. If you want to get that rolling, just hit play and just turn the music down low. We'll start off by, my name's John Smith. I've lived here in West Lafayette about 10 years. I grew up in Florida, Sarasota, 50 miles below Tampa. I have a big passion for baseball. I know it's not basketball, but I'm a big baseball player. And I thought for sure my two boys would play baseball, and they absolutely hated it. So they convinced me to coach basketball. I absolutely know nothing about basketball until I moved here to Indiana. If you don't like basketball here, you're in the wrong state. But anyway, so by a show of hands, who here knows what AAU basketball really is? Okay, good, that's great. So AAU basketball really is designed for athletes to perform and showcase their talent outside of high school or outside of middle school or elementary, and they get into a very high level competition, basketball, and it's typically with their friends or people that they're teamed up with. And they travel all around the Midwest and sometimes even further. They play basketball. And it's designed for scouts from all around the country to come look at the kids and see how good they are and see if they want them to play for their college. Well, anyway, one day I took my son and took our baseball team and turned it into a basketball team, and boy, that was a flop. I have a good friend of mine who was on the Big Brother Big Sister committee, and he's got a little guy, and he said, I'll bring him out and he can play with you guys. Well, next thing you know, there's this little guy sitting over there in the corner, and he was staring at me, and I went over and I said hello to him, and I'll never forget his name. His name was Tyshawn. And I said, "Do you play basketball?" And he goes, "Yeah, but I can't afford it." And I said to him, "Well," I said, "well, it's your lucky day." I said, I'll put you on my team." So I put him on my team, and the next thing you know, within about 3 weeks, he introduced me to all of his little buddies here in Lafayette, and I had a ready-made team of like 15 kids. And if you didn't know anything about basketball, you only need 5 to play. So within about 6 weeks, I was coaching 2 different teams and kind of honed it down to one team now. And you know, I learned real quickly that a lot of these kids are just like any other kid. They want to play and they want to grow and they want so much more out of life. And I just have a knack for connecting with kids. And I would say the majority of the kids that are on my team don't have a lot, don't have a father figure, bounce around from house to house. And matter of fact, I've had some of these kids live with me for quite some time. I had one kid live with me for almost 2 years. He was a house runner between parents. You know, it was a sad situation. Well, today, he is on the honor roll. He goes to a private school. I've got another kid that now has passed his SAT scores that I was concerned that he wasn't going to graduate, and I've got several different successes. And about 2 years ago, I had a little kid live with me for about 2 years, and at Christmas time, I asked him what he wants for Christmas, and he goes, "Coach," most of them call me Coach, or sometimes they even call me Dad, and they said, "That's me right there in the game." But he said to me, he goes, "Coach, I want a new pair of shoes." He goes, "I've never had a new pair of shoes before." Now, remind you, this guy's 13 years old. I don't know about you, but I probably had my first pair of shoes before I could walk. So I told my wife, we're going to buy this kid a new pair of shoes. So we went out to the store and picked out a pair of shoes, and I'll never forget it. We were going to the movies, and we got out of the car and walking to the movies, and it was sprinkling outside, and my wife and my daughter and my other son are sprinting across the parking lot, and I'm standing up there waiting for him to get out of the car so I can, lock it and go into the movie. And I holler at him, "Are you coming?" And he says, Coach, I got a problem. You have to come here." And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, we're running late here." So I run out to the car, and he goes, "Can you carry me?" And I look at it, I said, "You're 13 years old. I am not carrying you across the parking lot." I says, "God gave you 2 good legs. Let's get moving here, buddy." And he looked down at me, and he goes, "Coach, I got new shoes." And he goes, "I don't want to ruin them." And I was like, put him on my shoulder. Here I am trucking this 13-year-old kid across the parking lot because he didn't want to get his new shoes dirty. Well, that's just a sample of what I've dealt with, and a lot of these kids don't have beds, they don't have the proper learning environment. I've bought several kids beds before, lamps. There's people in this room actually that's helped out last year and helped tutor some of these kids. And it's just amazing and inspiring. And I've been doing this, like I said, for about 10 years now, and you know, most AAU basketball programs would tell you that they're looking just for pure talent. They're looking for kids, and if they don't make the cut, they just cut them off their team and they'll just get a new kid to replace them. And there's a lot of kids that just hop teams. Most of my kids I've had since the 3rd grade, and now they're juniors in high school. And they do leave. They go back to Chicago or they go back to Gary, and then they come back and the first thing they call up is me. I'll take it one step further. These kids call me on a regular basis, you know, telling me about their day. They check in with me, and you know, I just had one of the kids call me the other day and said, hey coach, I've got a school dance. I'm taking a girl. He goes, but I got a problem. And I go, what's that? And he goes, I don't have a tie. And he goes, I don't even know how to tie a tie. And I said, well, I'll be over to pick you up. So I went out and bought him a tie. It was a pink one, by the way. I thought it was ugly, but he liked it. So we put the tie on and tied it up, and he was all excited about it. He learned how to tie a tie for the first time. But just to give you an idea, these kids are in and out of my life pretty much my whole life. And as you can see in here, I don't just do basketball. I do a lot of, I can walk with this, right? So I do a lot of different things, and some of the things I do, every year I make these kids give back to the community, because I do events like this, and I talk and speak in front of people, and we do fundraisers and sell all kinds of stuff and whatever it makes. And the older they get, the more expensive it costs for these guys to play basketball. And each year we do something, we give back, and this year we went over to the transitional housing over on 18th Street, and we fed the homeless. I bought 21 turkeys, and I smoked them, and I got a big smoker out back. And I required every kid on my team to make a dish. And we met down there, and on Christmas Eve, we fed about 140 people on Christmas Eve. The year before, we did Thanksgiving, and we're always doing things. We've made the Journal and Courier, I don't know, so I only brought just a couple of these. You can pass them around and look at them, but these are some of the events and things that we've done. And, you know, I was contacted by Purdue. As you can see, there's a lot of Purdue stuff. So I do a lot of stuff with Purdue. I do a lot of halftime shows. They get to go underground. They get to go into their practice court, the brand new one that was built. Matter of fact, when we made the news, Pacers called us up and invited us out to the Pacers game, and we did a halftime show out there as well. So these kids get a lot of exposure, and they work really hard for it. And we actually have a pretty decent little team. And so not to get too emotional here, but this is really important for me this year to do this event. And here's the reason why. I have a 16-year-old son that was in a bad car accident December 6th. He's on my basketball team. He was in a head-on collision, speeds combining over 100 miles an hour. He was pronounced dead at the scene. They revived him 3 times. I'm going to try to keep it together, but that's him right there. Right. And they revived him 3 times. They flew him to Indianapolis, and he's going to have a full recovery. Wow. And so... He came home from a basketball game, and the basketball game that he came home from, he scored 33 points. He had a double-double, and he led the school in the most points ever made, and he was really on track for something big. The doctors say that he's going to have a full recovery and he'll play next year, which is unbelievable. He broke about every bone in his face. He broke 3 bones in his vertebrae. He's got rods and stems. He broke his jaw in 3 different places. He lost all of his teeth, and it just goes on. He's got a fractured skull. He's walking and talking. Matter of fact, that was December 6th. Last weekend, I was playing him a game of one-on-one in the cul-de-sac. It was truly amazing. So typically by now, I've already done a half a dozen fundraisers, and this is my first one that I've actually was able to talk publicly about, you know, my son and where I'm at with this. But as far as the team goes, I made a commitment to the team, and you know, the whole team showed up at the hospital, and they said, Coach, are you going to coach us this year? Or are we going to put this on the back burner? And I said, no. I said, even if my son can't play, I said he'll be right there with us. So we're going to play this year. This will be their last year. This is what's a really big year for them. They don't play AAU basketball as a senior. They play it as a junior. That in hopes that they're going to go to college. And if you want to play that one video, that'd be great. That's Matter of fact, TikTok is one of our sponsors, and that right there was 2 years ago at the food pantry doing food pantry feeding at the homeless kitchen. So yeah, so long story short, this is an important year for these guys. We typically play about 60 basketball games in about a 4 or 5 month window. We play a lot of basketball games. We travel all over the place. We've played in Louisville, we played in Wisconsin, New York, Canada. I've taken them down to Atlanta, Georgia before. And these are all on invite only. And you have to either win, or you have to have a competitive team, or you have to do stuff special like this. And there's not many teams out there that do stuff like this. And typically when we go to those big events, we're not usually the star of the show, but we sure do give it 100%. And these guys are amazing, and they're part of my life. And you know, typically on Christmas or Thanksgiving, we have a house full, and it's usually more kids than it is family, which that's all right. So I just wanted us to talk about that for a little bit, and where we're at, and what we're doing. This year on the books, we're going to be traveling to Chicago. We're going down to Indy. We'll be here locally. I don't know that we're going to do too many away trips just because I want to stay close to home with my son. But that's where we're at, and we've got some big things, and the kids are really excited to play, and we've already been holding some of our practices in the cul-de-sac of my house. How am I doing? Perfect. So that's where I'm at, and you know, at the end of the day, you know, getting these kids to graduate high school and potentially go to college is the ultimate goal for me. It's not about winning a basketball game. It's not about, you know, how you can dunk a basketball, or how many three-point shooters that you can shoot in a game. That's not what it's about. It's about teamwork. It's about leadership. It's communication skills. And you know, a good coach will teach basketball. A great coach will teach leadership. And I believe in leadership. I believe in, you know, that one day that these kids will be in a position in their life to where they're going to have to make some life decisions. And hopefully the time I've spent with them will be their background where they can make these good decisions. Because a lot of these kids were in a position where they weren't making good decisions. You know, school wasn't important. You know, being home at 9 o'clock on a school night was not important because, you know, they only have a mom, and their mom probably works at McDonald's 90 hours a week, so there is no supervision, and there is no dad in the picture. So, you know, having me to hold them responsible and holding them to a high level of calling me and checking in, and not only that, guys, but I also work with these guys at school. I work with their counselors to make sure that they're on track with their grades, making sure that they're going to, you know, graduate, they're passing their class, and if they're not eligible to play at school ball, then they're not eligible to play with me. And what I mean by that is I make them stand up in front of the group and explain to them, you know, what they're not passing or what they've done, and they have to sit on the bench until they get their grades up. And you know, having a little humility about it and being able to, you know, apologize to the team, you know, it shows courage and it shows leadership how they want to fix it. And that's kind of where we're at. And there's pictures of my house right there. I mean, I just do so many things with these guys. You know, I take them out to dinner and those kind of things, and I spend a lot of time with these guys. And you know, that's a great picture. He rolled his ankle at a game, and so we borrowed a shopping cart across the street to get him around the basketball court. But this is, you know, I don't know if you ever heard of the term of brotherhood. This is true brotherhood. This is family. This was a Purdue game. This was a halftime game that we played. It was I think it was Michigan State, I believe, was there when we played. And we were on the court. That actually has sound, by the way. We played in front of a full audience of people, and I split my team in half. We've done this, I don't know, maybe a dozen times, and talk about just total excitement. I had to hear about this probably for 6 months afterwards, and when are we going to do it again, Dad? That guy right there dribbling the ball, he was with me for almost 3 years. And he now is doing excellent, and he's going to graduate high school, and he's got a couple siblings that are older than him, and one of them is in jail, and the other one's got she's pregnant with 3 different kids from different fathers, and he's going to make something of himself. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So if anybody has any questions, I'm all ears. Yes.
Where do you normally play?
So if we're playing here locally, there's the Legacy down on 25 by the interstate. It's a brand new facility. It's been there about a year. It's got 4 courts. So if we're playing locally, that's where we play. If we are playing in Indianapolis, we could be at the Sportsplex. We could be in Fishers or Carmel. There's all around. There's many gymnasiums around Indianapolis that we play. One of my favorite places to play is in Chicago. That's where Nationals was at. We played 2 years ago. We played there. There was, I think, 90 teams in our division, and teams from all around the world. We played teams from Hawaii. We played there was a Japanese team. There was a team from Hungary, and there was a team from Poland that we played. So we played 16 games in about 5 days. It was a lot of basketball.
Wow. Do you have a website or Google kind of thing?
So I don't have I did have a website, but this day and age, Facebook. So if you look me up on Facebook, I believe my wife sets it up. I'm not a Facebook user, but I think it's called Dunkers Boys Youth Basketball. And I can confirm that. I've got it on my phone. I'll make sure you have that. But I do have a Facebook page, and I have all of our games, all of our stats, all of the kids, all of the events. I try to keep it current. I mean, there's a lot of neat things on there. Yeah.
Our son and daughter were in AAU swimming, and I know that going to meets and so forth requires fees to be paid.
That's exactly right. So to put this in perspective, leave out transportation and leave out hotels. Just to give you an idea, it's $500 to register with the Adidas group, because we play in all the Adidas sponsored leagues. So it's $500 a kid. I've got 10 kids. You do the math. That's $5,000. None of them can afford it. Typically, I pay out of pocket what I can't raise for these guys, and that's my first guy I got paid. I got 9 more to go. And it starts in early March. So I've got my work cut out for me. Like I said, typically I would have this pretty much wrapped up, but because of my son's accident and me spending 3 weeks in the hospital, you gotta have priorities, and being with my son was first on the list. So now that I know he's gonna be all right, I've gotta start hitting the streets. But you're right, it's very expensive to play. Any other questions?
Do the parents of these kids try to have any involvement with your program?
You want me to answer that honestly?
Yeah.
Absolutely zero. When we go to a game, there is 2 people that's on the bench. That's my wife and that's my daughter. So no, zero.
John,
Yes.
something you might consider is that guy sitting right beside you is on our foundation board,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I can speak for the board, is that sometimes they're looking for places.
He's over there shaking his head no.
At this point, he and I have already had that conversation, just so everybody knows. But our foundation bylaws require that we only grant 501c3 organizations. So, unfortunately, at this time, the foundation can't entertain a grant request from this team. So, Youth Services Committee, yes, but we would put our own tax-exempt status in jeopardy if we were to
Can
make
he
such a
become
grant.
a 501?
I've tried it. It's a lengthy process and a very costly process. And a guy like me, that's a small guy that's trying to do good in the community, is just not worth it. I would rather do events and stuff like this to try to raise money to help these kids.
Do you do anything to reach out to the parents?
I do, absolutely, but the only parents usually are the moms, and usually they're working like 70, 80, 90 hours a week, usually at a fast food place, so they're not around. So to give you an idea, where most AAU basketball players, they either have a car and they drive themselves to a game or to practice, or their mom or their father would pick them up and take them home. I'm that guy. I make 10 stops. I go to 10 different houses, pick up kids, take them there, and then drive back home. My wife has a minivan that holds 8 people, so typically I make one run, go drop everybody off, and then go back and pick up 2 more. My wife will use my vehicle to pick up the kids, and then we go drop everybody off. There's a lot that goes to it.
Playing games of the year for all this activity.
I'm going to tell you, when I first was doing
Can
this,
you repeat the question? What was the question?
Oh, the question was, how does my wife react to me driving all around town picking up kids? Good question. So when I first started doing this, she thought I was crazy. And then she thought I was even crazier to bring somebody home. But after she realized the passion and love that I have for not only the game but for these kids, it was instantaneous that there's a calling, so to speak, and she knew that this was for a good purpose. So she's totally on board.
How many
Yes.
games a year were you playing?
Typically anywhere between 50 to 70. To give you an idea. We play in a lot of games, and people don't realize this, but when you go do like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday tournament, you could play 20 games. I mean, you could be playing 5-6 games in one day. The better you do, the more games you end up playing. And we do pretty well. But when we go to some of the bigger tournaments, when you're playing nationally ranked teams, we don't do so well. But that's okay. We're not there to beat the giant. We're there to grow. Is what we're there. And we're there to, and I tell the kids that even we might be down 20 points, but it's not how far you're down, it's how you react. I mean, in life, sometimes you get run over and you're at a lull in your life, but you have to have the courage and the strength to get up and fight through it. And a true leader will get up and play hard and encourage his teammates. So that's what I preach to my kids. That you got to keep moving. Any other questions?
Do you have any time for practice?
I do. We practice twice a week at the gym down there, and then typically, like you saw in my house, if we don't have tournaments that weekend, we will practice on the weekend at my house, or we'll practice maybe a couple nights at my house as well. I think that they like practice more than they like the games, because usually my wife's out there baking treats. So is there any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, well thank you again for having me.